Okay, I think we're live now. So as we get started here, we're going to be talking about leadership and self-leadership. What comes to mind for you, and I just would invite you to share in the chat briefly, to just express a little bit like, hey, when you think about leadership, um, is there something that you recognize that you personally are wanting to improve with regards to your leadership right now? Okay, so and it's kind of coming to the question of why are you here? What are you hoping to gain out of this session? Because you came here for a reason. There's something you're looking for. There's something you're trying to improve. I'm curious what that is. If you could share with us, and if you don't want to share with the whole group, you can share with me in a personal message in the chat. That's possible, or you can share with the whole group. I would encourage the vulnerability to share with everyone, because that allows us to feel an increased sense of connection with each other during our session here. So again, why are you here? What are you trying to improve with regards to your personal leadership? I'll give you just a few moments to reflect on that as we start here. That might be able to allow us to let that set the stage for the rest of our conversation today. Okay, seeing some different thoughts here. I won't read these out for just a few moments. I'll be silent here for just a minute.
I could share mine verbally.
Yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
I recognize the need for continual learning and improvement. So when I saw this topic, that's what stood out to me for this event, Jeff, leadership. As I grow in my career, I get more direct reports, moving to line manager roles. Just continuing to learn how to navigate that.
Yeah, that's great. That's fabulous. Okay. See a few other people sharing with us in the chat. Delegating tasks and reporting my leadership to upper management. That's a good one. Improving my own self-leadership and then learning team leadership. That's excellent. And then someone saying self-leadership and self-discipline are what they're trying to work on. So whatever that is for you, if you're already in an official leadership title, or if you're wanting that to be something in the future, or you're starting to take on some of those responsibilities, it doesn't matter. When we're talking about self-leadership, we lead ourselves first. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So I'm going to go ahead and get some stuff started. Okay, cool. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to share some PowerPoint. If I can just get a thumbs up, if you can see this. And we're going to get in here. We're really focusing on how do we lead ourselves first in this process. So we already kind of did this, but just as a note, this is a tool that I like to use in some of my presentations. I call it Quick Chat, where we engage through the chat. We already kind of answered this question. Where are you all joining us from? We had people from London, we had people from Berlin, and coast to coast, I think, here in the US. So it's kind of fun to see that. I had someone else who said they couldn't join because they were in Spain. It was going to be in the middle of the night. So I think London and Berlin, I don't know what time it is, but I think it's late. So thanks so much for being with us. If any of you haven't met me, which is a number of you, just a quick bit about me. I focus on leadership and career development, and particularly in the engineering and technology fields. I'm passionate about this and the opportunity it can create for growth opportunity, because engineering and technology are some of and the people in those industries are some of the people solving some of the biggest challenges and things that we have on the planet. From the infrastructure we're creating to the technology that we use every day, from our computers to our pockets to so many other things. What you do matters. And if we can help you grow and become better, then the things that come out of that and the impacts on society are going to be that much better. And so I'm really passionate about this. my personal technology background is in mechanical, software engineering, and manufacturing and engineering leadership. But on the personal side, I'm a father of 4 beautiful children. I like getting outside and hiking, and I'm an avid reader. So if you want to talk books, I love doing that. The last few years got into pickleball, like a lot of people. It's kind of the rage, fastest growing sport in the U.S., I believe. And also just this year authored my first book, The Intentional Engineer, which I'm really excited about, and getting some solid feedback and reviews. People are loving it. So it's just a bit about me, but I want to set the stage for the rest of our conversation today, and just kind of give you a promise for what I hope to share with you. By the end of the session, I want to give you a framework to be intentional about growing your leadership, no matter what your current title is, right? And we'll give you some more resources and opportunities to continue to grow beyond the session. There may be ways that I can help personally, or just some other resources that might be helpful. So that's my promise to you. My invitation to you is to be present, to engage with the session. If possible, put the cell phone away, unless that's what you're tuning in with. I get that. But close out other distractions if possible. Actively participate, take notes if you can, see what you discover, be as present as possible, because if you're already giving yourself this time, you're giving me this time, you may as well make the most of it. Okay, so that's the invitation for you. So with that, let's kind of jump in and get started a little bit more. So I want to share a little bit of bad news that's out there. This comes from the latest 2023 Gallup kind of worldwide survey that they do. They do this across the world. And what you're seeing here is a measure of engagement. So this is their measure of engagement. You can see that the larger green number is the number for people in the United States, where the blue number, that's the global number. So engagement, measured by how people are really caring about their work and feel connected to that. About 31% in the US, less than 25% worldwide. Not a great number. It's a decent batting average if you're a baseball fan, but outside of that, it's not great. So I'm not pleased when I see this, and it's down a little bit. I think last year, 2022, was at 33%. Not that that's a huge change, but it did go down comparatively. Some of the other things, daily stress. People experience daily stress by answering the question, did you experience the following feelings a lot of the day yesterday? 52% in the US. This is actually higher levels of stress than on the global level. Kind of interesting. Intent to leave is pretty high. Around close to 50%, both here in the US and globally, thinking about people who intend to look for a new job. Okay, actively looking for another job or watching for opportunities, even if they're not actively looking to move right now. Like yeah, I'm not really loving where I'm at right now. So if you're an employer or if you're a leader, that's kind of troubling, because maybe there's something going on. What is this? What's causing people to want to leave all the time? Do they think the grass is greener? Or is there something about our current situation that we are not cultivating a place where people want to stay, right? Whether that's our culture, our environment, the role that they are in, are we placing people in the right positions to succeed? There's a lot of factors that go into this, right? Another interesting thing, so this is a US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's kind of a tough chart, but essentially what this is saying is that productivity, so the amount of work and effectiveness that we're getting from people, is lower, but the cost of people, the cost of employment, is higher, right? So from an employer standpoint, we're not getting as much work out of people per unit of payment at the moment. And that's troubling. And it's not just about we're overpaying people, or people are lazy. There's so much nuance to this that we need to look at why. I think it's directly tied to the engagement piece. productivity is absolutely going to be down if people are disengaged. And if they want to leave, they're looking for something else. They're not going to be that productive in their current situations. Maybe you've experienced this in your work personally at times, and maybe you've seen others do the same. So here's a few lessons that I see out of some of this data, okay? Is that there's a whole lot of people who don't feel valued and supported in the workplace. And this leads to lower productivity, satisfaction, and innovation, which is a critical thing that we're all trying to improve in our work in engineering and technology. That's huge. If we're not innovating, we're stagnating, and that's a problem. So I'd love to know what you see out of this, though. And so do one of these quick chats. So again, just a reminder, what we're going to do here, I want you to type your answer in the chat box, but don't actually press enter to submit it until I do kind of a 3, 2, 1 countdown. Okay, so then we get all the answers coming in at the same time. So with regards to engagement, innovation, productivity, why do you think these indicators are pretty low right now? What are you seeing? Okay, so I'll give you just a few seconds to think about that. Type in your answer. And then I'll press enter and submit that at the same time. I'm gonna get a drink while you do that. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I'm seeing lack of employee trust, lack of authentic connections, absolutely. People don't feel appreciated. Management doesn't seem to respect employees, a number of different things here. And all these, I think, are part of it. So yeah, trust, appreciation, connection, right opportunities, respect, a lot of different things at play here. Here's a few things that I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of my conversations with individuals and business leaders. Kind of connected with what some of you were saying. I think we're too transactional, right? That we're only looking at, I'm paying you to do a job and I expect you to do the job, and we're just purely transactional with our business employee-employer relationship, okay? I see some things on the leadership side that's kind of like do as I say, not as I do. So we're expecting certain things out of people, but not actually making commitments and not actually setting that example for leading out on those expectations. And that creates a whole lack of trust, right? Like, why would I, if I'm an employee of a leader who's kind of acting that way, why would I act that way and do what you say when you aren't willing to do it yourself? That's going to break down trust pretty quickly. And then kind of going on to the lines of the self-leadership piece, I think we often lose touch with ourselves and our purpose, even, and that's if we've even identified what our purpose is and what our intentions are and the things that we really care about. So maybe you've seen something like this in a leadership context. I know I have. I've actually been this before. Okay, so we take a great engineer, and they're one of the best engineers, or maybe just most experienced. They've been around the longest, and we ask them to lead a team because there's a void. Someone needs to step up. You're the person to do it. Okay, we throw them into the fire, but we don't give them a whole lot of support. And obviously they're going to do their best, but they often don't realize just how much of a shift it is to lead others versus doing great engineering work as an individual. It's just part of a team. Leading a team is so different than being part of a team. And in doing so, without giving them that support, we're actually unintentionally often setting people up to fail. So the Emperor says your failure is complete, for any Star Wars fans out there, right? And this is just one example where we can set people up to fail. But I think we do this in a lot of situations where we put people in places and situations, or we put ourselves in situations just because that's what's available, that don't really serve us or optimize for our ability to do our best work. But the good news, we talked about some bad news for a little while. The good news is that we can do something about this individually and collectively. So starting with yourself, you can take ownership to try and lead yourself. You can transform then how you lead others, how you interact with people, how you even lead and influence upwards, even to your leaders and managers in your organization, and work to improve your collaboration, innovation. And don't forget, right, the principles of leadership are not just at work, but when we're talking about leadership, absolutely, it can be applied at home, in our community, with our friends and our family, even just the small moments as we cross paths with the fellow humans on this walk of life, right? Like leadership is everywhere. In fact, I would argue, I said I'm a father of four young kids. That's some of my greatest tests of leadership. And some of the best books I've read on leadership are parenting books. So I'm a huge believer in this. But leadership starts from within. We have to lead ourselves before we can possibly expect to lead others in a team, or certainly lead an organization, right? And so we can't just be waiting. Well, the whole concept of leadership is that we are leading. We're not waiting for someone else to tell us what to do. We're taking the lead. We're going in front. We're charting the path. We're creating the vision, right? And so with leading yourself, you can't just expect that someone else is going to lay out exactly what this path is for you and what you need to do, but that you need to take ownership and say, I'm going to identify who I want to become and become that, right? And we're going to talk about a few principles today on how we apply that, but this is where this all comes from. We have to start from within. So just another one of these quick chats. Curious where you feel like you stand right now. This is not a scientific measurement, and I want you to stick with whole numbers from 1 to 5, no 3.5s or anything like that. Just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so from a scale of 1 through 5, 5 is the highest level. How would you rate your current level of self-leadership? Okay. How would you rate that right now? So reflect on that. Don't just do the really quick answer. I want you to reflect and be as honest as possible. I'll give you about 15, 20 seconds to think about this. How well are you leading yourself right now? Okay, so go ahead and press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see, we've got 2s, 3s, and 4s. Yeah, that's pretty common. It always feels weird to give yourself a 5 in something like this. But I also hope that if you really feel like it's a 5 right now, that you would say it, right? I want you to feel confident about that. Like right now, I feel like I'm doing a good job. That doesn't mean that you can't still improve. But with regards to your current state, if you feel like you're a 5, I hope you would say that, right? But 2s, 3s, and 4s are pretty common. I also feel really shameful maybe to give it a 1. But I don't care what number you gave, doesn't matter. It's just more of the exercise of you reflecting on that for yourself. And so what we're going to go into is some leadership principles that can absolutely be applied to us as individuals, but absolutely to teams and organizations as well. And it goes back to a lot of the themes that a lot of you said you felt like were some of the challenges to engagement and productivity and innovation around lack of connection and respect and trust and all these things. We're going to build a model around connected leadership, because leadership is about people, and if we're not connecting to the people that we're working with and working for and working to serve, then there's going to be a challenge here. So it's a 3-part model. We're going to start with the principles around awareness and mindset. Okay, I'm a huge believer in the power of mindsets. We can characterize our mindsets in a few different ways. The attitudes we take about someone or something, or the challenges or the environment or the opportunities that we have, right? It's kind of the lens through which we see the world. We can also think about these as beliefs that we hold about then, and when situations arise, they get filtered through the beliefs that we have in our mind, in our hearts even, and that sorts out the actions that we take. So it looks a little bit like this. where our mindsets drive our actions and behaviors, and our actions and behaviors obviously drive the results that we're having. But the thing is when individuals or organizations are trying to make some sort of change, the most common, what we say, hey, we've got a new goal. We've got a new goal that we want to achieve. This is something I want to do, whether I want to, as an individual, want to get a new job, or I want to get a promotion, or as a team, we want to complete this project on time. We want to improve this process, whatever that is that we're trying to accomplish. It's great to establish a goal. But what we often do is we start prescribing changes only on the layer of behavior and action. So it looks like this, okay? We say, these are all the things we're gonna do differently. But the problem with that is that we've completely neglected how we need to be different. That's our mindsets, right? And if we aren't changing who we are and how we operate in those contexts, then what's most likely to happen is our mindsets that we didn't change at all are going to pull those actions and behaviors right back to where they were before. Okay. But if instead we can shift our mindsets and our beliefs and who we are, along with our actions and behaviors, to reach our new set of goals, then we're going to be much more sustainable in the changes we're trying to make, right? Because our mindsets, two kind of analogies we can think of here. One is that our mindsets kind of act like our internal operating system, okay? And so everything runs through this processor that is our mind or our brain. And if there's a bug in the system, then we might get an input and we can create a pretty unhelpful output in there. So we need to upgrade and refine our operating system, maybe take out some of the junk in there and really refine what we want to do. That I also really like the analogy of this as lenses through which we see the world, right? So I wear glasses occasionally, right? I don't like them all the time, but if you have the wrong prescription, right, you're going to see a distorted view of the world. You are not going to see it in its reality. When you have the right description, someone who's nearsighted or farsighted or whatever needs a corrective lens, then suddenly they can see things clearly. They can see further away, right? They can see what's really true in colors and depth perception, everything that goes along with that, right? But if you have the wrong prescription, you have a distorted lens, you have scratches on your glasses or your contacts, you're not going to be able to see clearly. The same thing with our mindsets. So lenses through which we experience the world and experience people. And if we have the wrong prescription, we have the wrong mindsets, we're going to see things distortedly rather than seeing reality. Okay. And so the problem is we're trying to make some of these changes where we're only prescribing actions, behaviors. We're trying to put our foot on the gas pedal to say, hey, I want to make this change. But our mindsets are saying, no, 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 this isn't how we actually are. Let's pull you back. It's like you're having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. You're not actually going to get anywhere. Okay. And so, in line with my book and a lot of things that I teach, it's also about being intentional, having goals that are meaningful, right? So we have to identify the things and the changes that are meaningful to us. As an individual, self-leadership we're talking about here, we need to have a purpose that's bigger than just ourselves. We might say that, what's your why, right? We want to connect to things like core values, who we want to be. They're filters by how we live our lives and we make big decisions, okay? And encourage you individually and maybe as a team and certainly as an organization to have a mission or a vision statement for who you want to be, how you operate in the world. You want to be clear on who you're becoming. So on a personal side, I'll just share a personal example. I borrowed this from a good friend of mine I've done some collaborative work with, and he created a personal kind of one slide of his why, his core values, and the things that are most motivating to him. So I borrowed that structure and I created my own. Okay. So I've identified 5 values that I then put into an acronym: GIFTS: growth, impact, faith, truth, and significance. And then also on this page, I identified 5 images that are important to me, right? So I've got my family, the technology I work with, this, idea of lenses and mindsets, the growth, and my faith, and these other things that are important to me, right? So, and those are personal to me and who I want to be, right? And I use this as my computer background. So whenever I'm working, that's here, right? And it reminds me on a daily basis who I am and who I'm trying to become. Okay, so that might be one exercise you might consider, is identifying, do you have core values? What are those things that are most important to you? How do you want to, and how can you create reminders around those things so that as you go throughout your day, that will help you make decisions that are in line with that, instead of just kind of being at the whim of everyone or everything else, right? Because I believe that all of us are absolutely full of potential energies. There's the idea of kinetic energy, movement energy, but potential energy. And we're trying to get things moving. And my passion and what I love to do is unlock that potential, and awareness helps us do that. So what I want to do is just give you a little space to consider for yourself. Okay. I want you to take 60 to 90 seconds. If you have a little journal or a piece of paper or anything that you can take notes on, I want you to brainstorm 3 to 5 big changes or shifts or goals that you have that you'd like to make. Okay. So give yourself a little bit of time to do that. And in particular, I'd love these to be changes. It's not just like, I want to make this amount of money, or I want to get this promotion or something. Like, those are like, it's going to happen in a moment, right? But more about the changes that are about who you are and how you operate compared to what's going on right this moment that you would like to shift about yourself. So think of more of a systems process approach change than I want to achieve this particular milestone. Okay. And then you might, look at that list and ask yourself, which of these that if I would actually change would make the biggest impact in my life and my leadership and my career? And a bonus, if you can, identify what might be holding me back, right? Sort of like, right now, are there beliefs or mindsets that are kind of putting my foot on the brake pedal while I'm trying to make this change and put my foot on the gas? And if I can identify that, maybe that can allow you to get your foot up off that brake pedal a little bit and get yourself moving with that potential that you have. So I'm going to give you some quiet time to consider this. I invite you to take that time and certainly continue it on after our session today, if that would be helpful for you. Give you just a little bit of quiet reflection time. And just another note on this while you're doing this, it's helpful to word these things as positive changes that you're trying to invite into your life, rather than things that you're trying to avoid, things that you don't want, because there's a lot more power in focusing on what we do want, what we do care about, rather than just trying to avoid things we don't want. So just another note on that. Okay, take about 10, 15 more seconds, then we'll move on. Great. So I hope that that little bit of reflection was helpful for you. And I'm just curious to engage with you a little bit on this with another one of these quick chats and just invite you to share just one of these, right? What's a big change that you identified? You feel like, hey, if I could make this change, that would be really impactful for me. So you've already sort of identified those things through having that time. But so go ahead and type yourself or type your answer here in the chat box. Again, I invite you to be vulnerable and share with us. This can be quite helpful for you. And see what the group says. You might see that someone else is saying the same thing. Also, and go ahead and do 3, 2, 1, go, and have those start coming in. But while you're doing that, I'll just share from my own personal thing. And I've been working on this for a while. I even wrote about it in the book. One of the things that I'm really trying to change is to be more present. Be more present with my clients and my work. When I've got another project, I'm not working with someone, to stay present, to stay in the moment with whatever task or initiative I'm working on, to be really present with my wife and my kids and others in my life that I care about. That's a challenge that we all have in this modern age, right? And something that I'm actively working on. And I know if I can continue to improve that and who I am and how I operate within that space, not just shifting, I'm going to do these things differently. I'm just going to put these blockers on my phone or whatever, but really trying to create the habits and the thinking patterns of someone who is present is something I'm working to do. Then I know that can make a huge difference in who I am. So that's just my personal example. I'm curious what you have. Again, please share in the chat if there's something that you identified that's a big change or a shift that would be impactful for you. I'd love to hear it as a group. All right, we got
the countdown.
Go ahead, Arthur.
I was waiting for the countdown.
Oh yeah, sorry, I said it. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we said people talking about keeping track of accomplishments and not beating myself up over things I didn't get done, improve priority and time management of short and long-term tasks in order to be able to lead self and others, be more focused rather than so scattershot, being present in the moment. So I guess I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I was thinking you were reading my chat, man. Or you're gonna steal yours. He was saying exactly what I put
Yeah,
down.
I think it's something that our society at large can do. And this whole idea of connection is part of this, right? Like we can't connect with people well unless we are present. And so this is something I'm really passionate about. So I just want to build the next piece here. So we've talked about awareness and mindset, and this is that's really foundational. But now we're talking about communication and how we communicate and share information. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had so many situations with in the workplace that there was a problem, there was a mistake that was made, or something that fell through, or we didn't meet a deadline, or there was a problem with manufacturing or something. And it came down to, at some point, there was a miscommunication, right? Like something didn't get shared, something didn't get understood, whatever that was. How often does this happen? We can point to this is the issue when there's a problem at work, right? and in our personal lives as well, right? And so what I think about communication is a flow. So I want you to think about communication as this river that's flowing, and we want to get in the flow of communication. We want to keep the flow going. We don't want to be the dam that stops it. We want to keep it flowing. We want to be part of that flow. And on the two banks of this river are two different aspects of communication. It's the listening, that's kind of the receiving end of communication, and sharing. This is what we are sharing in terms of communication. And between those, we're in the channel, the communication flow channel, right? So we are in the river. That's where we want to be. Because if we're on just one bank or the other, if I'm only listening, then I'm not actually sharing, and so I'm not actually in the flow of communication. Communication stops with me. But if I'm only sharing and I'm not taking anything, and then I'm also out of the flow, right? We need to have both of them. But the current of the river is powered by the purpose, the why behind this. And so it's interesting to think about, like, hey, where do I usually spend more time? If you were to ask me, I am a lot better at sharing than I am at listening. Okay. And I've had some pretty pointed feedback over the years that has been the case, right? That may be different for you. Maybe you're a great listener, but you have a hard time speaking up and sharing things with conviction. So just just curious, which one do you feel like you need to work on most? Do you need to work on listening better, or do you need to work on sharing with conviction and confidence better, right? So give you just a few moments to type that in. We'll go 3, 2, 1, go. Sharing. And I already told you mine. Mine's listening. Okay. But what is it for you? Right? Listening or sharing? What do you need to work on that to get into the flow of communication? So a couple of you are like me, and it's listening. And but it doesn't matter which one it is. We need both, right? And so for those like me that feel like you need to work on the listening side, want you to, it's a model that comes from Stephen R. Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, passed away a few years ago, but talked about 5 levels of listening. The first ones we might not even pretend are even listening, ignoring and pretending like we're listening. That's pretty obvious. Selective listening, I'm only hearing and listening to what I want to hear, and everything else I'm just filtering out, right? What gets talked about a lot is attentive or active listening, where I might be able to tell you what you're, repeat back to you what you're telling me, and that validates that you're and I'm actually hearing what you're saying. And that's great, by the way, if you can do that. That's an excellent level of listening. To establish a deeper level of connection, we want to connect with not just what people are saying, but how they're feeling and what's behind all of that. And that's this 5th level of empathetic listening. Just to give you this quote from Dr. Covey, says, empathetic listening is so powerful because it gives you accurate data to work with. Instead of projecting your own autobiography and assuming thoughts, feelings, and supposed to say motives, not movies, sorry, and interpretation. You're dealing with the reality inside another person's head and heart. The reality. Okay. You're listening to understand. You're focused on receiving the deep communication of another human soul. Right? So we're really connecting on a personal level. We're experiencing emotions and understanding them, not just what they're saying, but who they are. Okay. So I invite you to find where are areas in my life, if listening is something you want to improve, where are areas in my life that I want to listen with more empathy and do some more empathetic listening. I'm not saying that in every single circumstance this is what we're searching for, but more than we perhaps do right now. I know that's something I'm working on. Okay. If you identify that sharing is something that you're trying to work on, then we want to share with conviction and confidence. When you're doing this in a leadership context, and whether or not you are the leader or you just have something that's important to share, if you're a frontline engineer, you have to share your ideas in a way that people are like, yeah, I agree with that, and I can see the validity. But if you don't believe in what you're sharing, then it's going to be hard for them to believe in it too. So we want to create that. And when we share with more conviction, we have that sense of certainty that we're actually giving to others to increase the confidence. When we're decisive, right, we can make decisions together and share frequently to keep the people connected to the why and what needs to happen. And in a leadership context, we want to connect people with why and what, and let them take care of the how instead of dictating every single step along the way, right? So this really helps us make progress together through staying in this flow of communication by listening effectively and sharing with conviction. Okay. So now as we put the final piece of this model together, or at least of the three areas of connected leadership, we want to build psychological safety. We've gained awareness of where we are, our mindsets, and how that influences us. We've gotten into this flow of communication. Now we need to build safety for the team and the people that we work with and work for to really grow together and share realities. Okay, so why is psychological safety so important? Well, Google is largely a data-driven company in a lot of ways. They did it. Their people operations team did a huge internal study, large data project to define and track what they define as effective teams. Okay, and of all the different factors that came out of that, psychological safety was by far the most important dynamic. Okay, because people on teams with high psychological safety, they didn't leave as often. They were more engaged. They accepted more ideas that were different or diverse from their own. Higher revenue, especially their sales teams, higher innovation for engineering teams, and their leaders rated them as more effective. So this is a huge opportunity if we can do this well. So if you're not familiar, what is psychological safety? Let's just talk about this for a moment. In a team that has high psychological safety, people will feel safe to take risks and speak freely. I'm not going to think heavily that someone is going to react negatively if I bring up a counterpoint to theirs. Right? Or I'm going to try something new. If it doesn't go well, I'm not going to be punished for that. And they're going to be like, hey, that was a learning experience. Let's do it better the next time, right? They're going to be supported in these things. We're going to actually encourage conflict, but not just all conflict, but conflict that's healthy and non-destructive. We're not attacking the person, we're attacking the ideas. We're trying to collectively come to the best idea together, whether or not it was our own, right? And it's a good thing if people are conflicting in the right way, because if people are just kind of saying yes and agreeing to whatever the leader, whoever's in charge says, it's not a whole lot of collaboration and innovation. It's just a lot of yes man, yes woman, and that doesn't serve anyone, okay? When we have psychological safety, we believe that others are going to support us. We feel supported, we feel respected, and everyone's willing to be transparent with their strengths and their weaknesses, okay? One of the researchers who's kind of led out on the research around psychological safety is Amy Edmondson. She also gave a great TED Talk I'd encourage you to go check out. But these are 7 kind of operating questions, and you can take a look at these and think, I'm not going to read all of these word for word. I want to give you some time to look at things, hey, things aren't going to be held against us. People can accept each other. It's safe to take risks and different things here. So these are questions to say, hey, what's your current level of psychological safety? If these are high, that's a great indicator. If not, okay, there's some opportunities to work there. And instead of just expecting your leader or someone else to start building psychological safety, again, going back to the idea of self-leadership, what part can I play? What responsibility can I have to make this better? Right? I get to choose that. So reflecting on that for a moment, do another kind of scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest level of psychological safety. How psychologically safe would you rate your current or perhaps most recent team? Okay. And I hope it's high. And if not, that's okay. It just means that there's some opportunities there, right? So think about that for a second, given the discussion that we just had. Now let's go 3, 2, 1, go. Go ahead and enter the numbers for you. See 2s, 4s, and a 5. That's great. I mean, if I see a 5, I'd be ecstatic. That's fantastic, right? There's a 2, 3, or 4. There's some opportunity there. So that's great. And a 4 is excellent too. So this is cool. So here's just what we can do. Again, going back to this idea of if we want to improve psychological safety, you want to take ownership of it in your own life, in self-leadership. First is admit your own fallibility. Okay. When you're talking and be willing to admit mistakes when you make them. Make clear why other people, their voice matters, really respect them in that way. Be a part of that solution. And then instead of when things go wrong, pointing fingers and placing blame, get curious to what could have been done better, how you could have improved, and really seek to get to the root cause of pointing, how did we not do this well, instead of what did you do wrong, right? So let's get rid of blame, okay? So this whole model we've put together here of awareness and our mindsets, right? Communication flow, psychological safety, the intersection of all these is where we get to connection and trust. And really this linking together of who we are as people, as employees, as humans in the world. Trust is huge. If you haven't seen Stephen M.R. Covey, this is the son of Stephen R. Covey, who wrote 7 Habits, wrote this book, The Speed of Trust. I love this model. Hey, when trust increases, both the speed goes up, cost goes down. That's a good thing. When trust is low, speed is down, cost is up. So that's kind of the data we saw right now. Trust must be down because our productivity is down and our costs are up. That's not a great thing, okay? And this is a quote that I just saw this morning, and I wanted to make sure to put in this because it kind of hit me. On the personal level, we're never so vulnerable than when we trust someone. But paradoxically, if we cannot trust, neither can we find love or joy, right? We have to find this trust and this connection with each other. And in the workplace, trust and connection bring great things. Some of the things we've been talking about: collaboration, innovation, creativity, resilience, learning, right? These are all things that we want. And this is, trust can help engender these things. So I just want to, get this to taking some action on all of our parts and get you to reflect for just a moment. Like, what's something that you can do this week to extend some trust to someone? Is there someone who right now you're holding back trust that maybe deserves it? Or maybe you just need to test that and see. Maybe you've been holding back, you haven't been delegating, you haven't been sharing information with someone. What does that look like right now for you? And I encourage you to share that with us, if possible. So type that out, give you about 20 seconds or so. Think about that, type that out. Because this can take this to the next level. It's like, okay, now I'm gonna take that personal responsibility and do something about this. Okay. So finish typing that out and then press enter to submit it in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, be reliable on your own side, so people can trust you. That's great, Arthur. I'll kind of just share, and if anyone else has anything else to share, please do. From my own side, there's some things. I've got someone who helps me with a number of things, and I've been kind of holding back some of the tasks that I just sort of think that I'm the only one who can do this, but there's probably a bunch of areas that he can do, and by me holding back, I'm actually holding him back. Okay. And so there's some things that I want to entrust him with to do and accomplish and grow in some areas. And Lucine's saying, like, this is tricky. It absolutely is. And so, this is just the start of this work to do. And I'm just trying to get you going and get some value out of this. Okay. So just kind of summarizing the areas that we worked on here. And some actions that we can take, and please, if you need some more time, please take that time, and also after this, if anyone wants to chat, we'll have some time for Q&A, and if there's anything that I can do to help support you after the fact, then we can talk about doing some more work and connections there too. So anyway, but I just want to kind of summarize here as we're starting to wrap up. I want to improve our awareness. These are some potential actions that you can take. Dig into that biggest change idea and what might be that hidden commitment, that thing that might be putting your foot on the brake right now that we can uncover and let go of that a little bit. On the communication side, do you need to improve more on your listening or your sharing with conviction? Okay, find some way to practice that tomorrow. And on the psychological safety side, when we lead with vulnerability, can you find a way to take a risk and invite someone else to do the same in a way that they feel supported and cared for in that, right? So hopefully you felt like I kept my promise at the beginning. I want to give you some frameworks to intentionally grow you personally and also apply to teams and organizations as well. And so I hope you feel like I did. I really tried to. But are you all good from here? You know, after this, I think a lot of you said like, I need more time to think about this. This is tricky. There's more work to be done. So it's kind of a yes and no. I certainly didn't hold anything back, but we're also limited in time, and these things can't just happen in an instant, right? So it's kind of like an old saying I heard from Warren Buffett, who's one of the richest people ever. You know, he could explain the concepts of investing in just one sentence: buy low, sell high, and only invest in things you understand. I get that. That's pretty simple to understand. It doesn't mean I'm a billionaire investor yet, because it's the details that make all the difference. But people who are committed to finding the answer, people who are committed are the ones who succeed. They're committed to finding the answers, whatever it takes. So there may be some more things that you need to figure out, like you've already identified. These are just a few that maybe are rattling around in your mind. How can I identify that biggest change or unlock that, break through some of those hidden commitments? How can I listen better and grow my conviction around what I share? How can I improve psychological safety and trust? And how do I share this beyond me? I want to do this, but it's a collective thing. I need to do this with other people. How do I do that across my team and across my organization and build that culturally, and things, and everything else you don't know that you don't know, right? There's just a lot to this. So you can try and figure all this out by yourself, or I would absolutely love to help, and I know that I can. What I've found is that if people try and go their own way with this, even if you've got the right ideas, a lot of times little, if any, progress gets made. But those who really make progress are the ones who invest in themselves and their teams. They seek to get accountability and support and guidance, and they take courageous action to do that. So if you really want to improve personally or as a team or organization, I've created some new service offerings for individuals and organizations who want to get serious about being more connected, growing leadership in different ways. And for individuals, that usually looks like a coaching model where we do some one-on-one work and maybe some group coaching work in some of the programs that I have. For teams and organizations, I have some pretty innovative training and workshops that I do with people. I can facilitate discussions they need to have, and I'll do speaking for groups as well. So it can take a lot of different forms depending on what your needs are. But obviously, it needs to be a mutual fit, and I need to fit you, and you need to be the right fit for me and what I bring to the table as well. But you have a choice, like we all do. It's kind of physics, because an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So if for some reason you're feeling at rest personally, or as a team or organization in some way, you're feeling stuck and unable to make some of the improvements you want to make, you can't motivate others, feeling a lack of alignment in your visions and goals with what you're doing, you're having some of those communication struggles, there's low collaboration, innovation, and trust with your teams, you can stay how you are, kind of stay at rest, or we can work together and get that outside force to accelerate your leadership progress now. So my invitation is, if we haven't already chatted, let's do that. So go to jeff-perry.com/schedule call. We can set up some time. I'm just going to be working the next couple of days, and then I'm going to be off for the rest of the year, but we can even schedule into January. That's totally fine. But set up a time to talk, you and I, one-on-one. Limited calendar availability, like I just said, but we'll dig into your unique challenges and goals, whether that's a personal or a collective thing that you want to work on. A couple of people asking me questions in the chat, and we can talk about some of those things. And if we're a good fit, we can design a package specifically for your needs and what's going to be right for you. Okay. So I just invite you to, if you feel like you want help, then let's do this. Let's have this conversation. You're feeling like there's an opportunity here, then let's do it, because the principles are do what works, not what doesn't. Get that training support, even if it's not for me. I may or may not be the right fit for you and your team. But find something that is, and then just keep persevering and moving forward towards who you want to become. And I know you'll be glad that you did. So we'll spend some time in Q&A. These are the QR codes to schedule call. There's also a QR code here for a new resource that I've got called the Connection Code. This is a short assessment you can go grab that assesses different areas that you as a team and organization, as an individual, might need to work on to improve some of these areas of connection. There's a different model in there that we didn't talk about today, but it's a really cool exercise you can go through, and we can do some whole workshops and training just around that to uncover and really look for those opportunities to improving connection. So I know we're kind of at the time that we scheduled, but I want to be here for some Q&A time, and I'll put these links into the chat as well, so you can grab those if that makes it just a little bit easier. So here's the connection code, and here's a link to schedule a call if you'd like to do that. So, but invite you to ask any other questions. You can put them in the chat, or even better, let's unmute and actually have a discussion here. Anything goes, and we can enjoy this time together. If anyone has any questions or discussions you want to have about anything we talked about, or anything that came up for you personally from this. Wow, and Courtney saying 1 a.m. So dedication to even show up here. So thanks so much for being here. I think they said they were in Berlin. So thanks so much. Have a good sleep, and let's connect sometime soon if we can.
I just want to say thank you. I really appreciated the advice and everything tonight. And I guess I have a question a little bit about, like, obviously I appreciate the challenging myself on how I can trust others better, but do you have any tips on how we could have others trust, like, let's say myself or like my engineering team a little bit more? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but
yeah, it is, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I'd love to, again, if you'd like to discuss this, then let's set up some time. Isn't it Lucine? Am I saying that right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, Lucine, so glad to have you here. So this is critical, because obviously you're trying, but I still go back to what can you control, right?
Right.
You can't control whether they trust, but you can control doing the things that are most likely to invite and earn the trust in them, right? And you can control having some of the discussions. You don't need to, and I wouldn't call it out so like, hey, you're not trusting us, what do we need to do here? But I might consider having a conversation like, I'm feeling right now that perhaps you're holding back some of that trust for some of the things that we can do. And here's how I think that we can improve, so take ownership. Here's the things I think that we can improve. But if we can be trusted to try some new things, that's going to allow us to actually improve some of these levels of innovation and opportunity and progress that we're trying to make. And so some of it is putting in their context, not pointing fingers of blame, but trying to get into that curiosity of what's going on, what might be behind some of that, and also painting the picture. If you can collectively together make that shift, then it's going to be an opportunity for the whole team to, you can paint the picture of how it's going to be better for them, for the leadership, for the organization, if you can do that together well, right? Because if they can see the reason why and how it's going to impact them positively, then they're like, oh, yeah, like this makes way more sense. So put it in their context, and also don't be pointing fingers. Look for ways that you can improve and get into that curiosity space. Because we might be able to then get to the root cause of why they might be holding back some of that trust, instead of just saying, you need to trust us more. But there's usually multiple layers to that. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. So just to kind of go back to you, Lucine, because you brought up this question, what now do you feel like is something that you're going to do differently, or what action might you take after going through this session today, and what do you think you're going to try to see if you can improve some of that trust? I know it's tricky, and I just put you on the spot. But I'm trying to get this into not just ideas, but application here.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have my year-end review tomorrow, so I've been thinking through a lot of this from that perspective too.
That's exciting.
I don't know, I think just like when my manager, let's say, says he's going to get something done, like trusting that a little bit more, and also like being there as much as he like empowers us, but me empower him as well, because we do work very closely together, instead of just being like, oh, he's so busy, he's probably not going to get it done. Just try to like go in with a positive but like realistic attitude about it as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. And a couple other kind of layers I'll just add on to that as well is one is a lot of trust gets broken down and can even get turned into resentment when we think about the concept of expectations. I'm finding, and I've been thinking about this a lot, that expectations generally aren't helpful unless they turn into not just an expectation, because a lot of times an expectation is something that I hold about you that I haven't actually told you, right? So that's just an opportunity. When you let me down for my expectation that I had about you, then and you don't live up to that, then that's just me, that's an opportunity for me to be in resentment. But if instead we can turn these expectations into commitments and agreements that we make with each other, then suddenly we have this higher level of commitment that we have to each other. Those things that were unspoken expectations now are spoken commitments and agreements. And the power of the accountability around that, not just a leader holding other people accountable or us trying to hold our leaders accountable, but we're more self-accountable in that space, right? So much more powerful, much more helpful in that way. So that's just another layer there too, to maybe turn some of those expectations, like, oh, just kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, like, hey, how can we turn this conversation into an agreement or commitment that they make and that you are making to them as we're trying to make improvements together?
Yeah, that's very helpful, especially the resentment side it's like to think of it from how you were explaining. So thank you. I was taking notes as you were explaining a bit.
Yeah, good. Anyway, thanks so much for asking. What a great question, and so powerful. All right.
I'm gonna sign off, Jeff, but it was a great session. Definitely gleaned something I could put in practice right away.
Yeah, good. Arthur, always good to see you, my friend, and wishing you nothing but the best. I did send off some books to you last week. Hopefully you got them. And so, or you'll get them soon. So looking forward to seeing what
Good
you
luck
think
to
there.
everybody.
So,
Enjoy the season.
cheers.
Will these
Any
slides
other
be shared as
questions?
well?
Yeah. Any other questions or comments here before we end off today?
So I was just asking if the slides are going to be shared.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll just share the whole video, so the slides will be embedded in that. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, like Lucine, like we were talking about, like, if there's, you're trying to do this all on your own, if there's we can have a conversation. There's people in the organization that I could talk to about maybe bringing some of this to make it a team experience, and we can do some of that as well. Happy to explore that if there's people you want to connect me with on that front.
Thank you so much.
So, thanks so much. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Hope you have a great night and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and hope to see you and visit with all of you again soon. Thanks so much for being here, and take care.
Thanks. Merry Christmas.